Hi guys, it's Ivo here from mytestedasp.net. In this video we're going to continue the Catstagram server app and we're now going to create the user profile. Before we begin, I would like to mention that if you are new around here, hit the subscribe button and turn the bell notifications on if you don't want to miss any advanced C# lessons I'm publishing almost every week. Now let's start. So before we begin, I would like to add something we've missed in the previous video, which was all about audit info, and it's a small change in the cat service which fetches all the data here. What we need to do is we need to set order by descending by the new created on property. We want to return the data and the newest should be first. Good. Also, what I would like to do is I would like to just commit the current changes, added audit formation infrastructure. Good. Now let's continue with the user profile. We want to add some properties to the user profile. And these properties should be almost the same as on Instagram. So first things first, public string name. That's essentially the display name. We have public string profile photo URL. We're going to leave it as URL for now. In a future video, we're going to make it uploadable. And we're going to store the images on our server, but for now let's leave it like that. Then we have public string website and public string biography. I believe that's almost everything. I'm looking down because I've opened Instagram to see what else I need to add. If I go to settings, we have notifications. We're going to add that in the future. Creator, and there's also gender. So let's add gender class, which is essentially going to be an enum, and we are going to add male, female, and unspecified. Always add numbers to your enumerations, guys. It's important, especially with the enumerations in the database, because if you don't add enumerations, don't add numbers, they're going to be default ones, which are kind of problematic because the database don't store what kind of enumeration you are saving, but it stores the numbers. And if you don't have them, for example like this, and decide to add another option here, other will become 2, as you can see, and female will become 3, which will lead to unstable and invalid data. So always make sure you put the numbers so that if you decide to add other, you need to put its number like this. Okay, so the user will have a gender and we're going to add privacy, account privacy, which is essentially a boolean private profile like this. Whether the profile can be seen if you're not following it. That will be the logic. Okay, what we need to do now is we need to provide some validation the same way we added here. So first things first, I'm going to go to our validation class and I'm going to say user here. I'm going to say that I need using static validation user, and now we need to specify that the name, actually nothing is required here. You can create uh, an user on Instagram without filling all these details. You can add them later, so nothing is required. And by default, the profile is public. You need to go and turn the privacy on. So let's leave it like that. But I'm going to add some validation in terms of length, the same way we did it here. So validation user public const int max name length, for example, maybe let's leave it 40. Don't know the actual value. Max name length. Profile photo URL, it doesn't have a length. Website, it doesn't have a length. Biography, it shouldn't be very let's see, Instagram profile bio max length. "150 characters. Somehow people can make that, add a link, use post, blah blah. Okay, so the profile description, max biography length will be 150. The default value for the gender will be 0, and we have a private profile false. Okay, that's okay, but we're getting quite a lot of properties here, and these are not exactly for the user class in terms of object-oriented design. So what we can do is we can make an owned class, which will be profile. We're going to store it in the same table as the user. It doesn't matter. The other way is to separate the tables. We can also make a one-to-one relationship, user and profile, but that would lead to unnecessary joins for now, so let's skip it. So let's get like this, is private. Not sure whether I should separate the user entity from the profile entity, but in terms of data it doesn't matter. It will be easier for to have the data in the user profile. Typically you may separate the data needed for authentication and authorization, and the profile information may be in a separate table too. So both solutions are completely fine if you decide to use a separate table or with one-to-one relationship, or just save all the profile data in the same table. I'm going to leave it in the same table for now. In the future, if we decide to extract something, or if we see that our queries are not optimized, we may separate it. So what I'm going to add here, I'm going to say public profile, and there should be a configuration in terms of how these two entities are related. We're going to make the profile to be owned by the user. Owned type in entity framework means that two classes are essentially saved in the same table. So no matter that the profile is a different class here, we're going to save it in the same table. So I'm going to open Catagram DB context, and I'm going to add builder dot entity user owns one, and I'm going to say the user owns a profile like this. Okay, next thing we need to add a migration, but before that I'm going to show you where you can find the source code. This project source code is available on my GitHub profile. It's Ivailo Kenov. You may follow me if you like. And if you hit repositories and then hit TV, you will find every piece of code I write on my YouTube channel. So here it is. I'm also linking every video, all the playlist, everything is here, so you can play with it, download it, clone it, whatever you like. I will be extremely thankful if you decide to give me a star. And also you may watch the project, because this way you will not miss any of my future videos, because you will see everything I add here. I'm going to use the moment to thank my sponsors. That's Endeavor, Tsuke, Softuni, Smart IT, Nobuhar, and 1-Bit Software. A few words about Endeavor. Endeavor is a software development company which constantly searches for new passionate developers. So if you are looking for a new opportunity, make sure you check their website out. My other sponsors are Tsuke, Softuni, Smart IT, Nobuhar, and 1-Bit Software. Thank you guys, you truly rock, and you motivate me to continue providing free knowledge on YouTube. Now let's get back to the code. Good, so we added that the user owns one profile. Let's go and add a migration. So it adds a couple of columns. Biography, gender is private, knowable, true. I'm going to edit that to knowable, false. Oh, actually, yeah, it's correct. Knowable, true. Why is it knowable? I don't want it to be knowable, but I'm going to set it's knowable because it's a nested nested owned column. That's why it's nullable. Profile name, photo and website. Everything looks fine. So let's update the database. Done. Good. Everything else, what we need to create next is we need to allow our client to fetch that data and display it. So let's another public async task. Action result. Profile response model. We're going to need a profile response model, which essentially is going to return everything needed for the client. The profile response model should have all these properties here, plus the username, because that is also editable through the normal Instagram. Good. Then what we need to say is I want to return profile response model. It will be profile, and I'm going to add for HTTP GET for authorized users, and the route should be let's create a new controller for that. I'm going to add new folder profiles, and here I'm going to add a new class profiles controller. It's better to be separated, just like we separated these two classes. What we need to do is add that this is an API controller, and then move this method here. This will return only the current user's profile. We're going to add profile pages for other users later. Good, so HTTP GET authorize profile. What I'm going to need is, let's make it mine the same way we did here on cat's controller when we say mine. Going to add my profile service. To have the same name by user, get me a profile by user, and I'm going to say that I need profile. Actually, I'll need to change the model. That's profile service model. Let's add the actual implementation of the profile service. Profile service. Like this, and what we need to do here is we need to inject the database the same way we do it here. This data dot users. I'm thinking whether we should change the profile to be on a separate table from the default user. Not sure, we may do it in the future. Guys, if you want me to do a separate table for the profiles and to see how we can do a one-to-one relationship, let me know down below in the comments, and I'm going to refactor the code in one of my future videos. For now, let's leave it in the same users table, but if you're curious about the one-to-one relationship, let me know and I'm going to refactor it. Good, so give me the user, which user ID equals this one, then select from the user profile service model, and then of course that shouldn't be enumerable. Dot first or default async, like this. I don't like the name profile photo when we are already in a profile. It should be photo URL or main photo URL. So let's remove the migration. And let's change the name. Let's make it main photo URL like this. Let's add the migration again. We're going to introduce AutoMapper soon to remove all that boilerplate code, which name equals name, profile photo URLs equals photo URL, website equals website, and so on. Let me just rename this one too in the service. And let's go to the profiles controller. Profile service, profiles, and private read-only current user service, current user. We're going to make it like on the gets method like this. Profiles controller, I'm going to say await this profiles by user this dot current user get ID like this. Good, so what we need to do now is we need to run the app and see that everything is working. But before that, I would like to introduce you to my mentorship program. My mentorship program is available on Patreon. It's patreon.com/IvailKenov. You can find a link down below in the description. And in this mentorship program, I provide exclusive video lessons, voting system for my next videos, live workshops, and many more different perks. So if you want to join a mentorship program, make sure you check it out. For example, here are some posts for my next live workshop, for my next community voted lessons, some exclusive videos available only on Patreon, for example, DevOps with Azure Pipelines, some book about domain-driven design and clean architecture, other community voted lessons, model binding workshop, RabbitMQ with C# to C# communication signal, gRPC, and many more. I update this content every month, so if you want, and if that's something you're interested in, make sure you subscribe. I promise you advanced video lessons. So let's run the Catstagram server. There should be an exception because I didn't register the iProfile service. Let's go to the application services and register it. We're going to automate that too in one of my future videos. Every service should be registered by convention without the need to manually enter it. So we can see that we have a profile here which should return some JSON. Let's test it out. If we try to hit slash profiles with no header, we should have unauthorized. And if we add the header of the currently logged user, we will need to have some data. The gender is not very pleasant, so let's go and fix that. It should be a string. This should be just a string. And this should be gender.toString. Good, let's run it. But everything should be working correctly. So it's unspecified here. Good. That should be all. Before we finish, I would like to mention my testing tools. They're called mytest@asp.net, and if you want to assert very fast and very easily your ASP.NET applications, make sure you check my tools out. They essentially allow you to validate and write unit and integration tests for your controllers, services, models, and so on in a very easy and fluent manner. Literally, it takes seconds and you're going to save a lot of time for your testing. A lot of people already downloaded my tools, more than 2 million downloads, so make sure you check it out. Thank you, and guys, we're going to add editing the user profile in my next video. Stay tuned.